host, Joel Perez, and you're watching Wrestling with Politics. And today we're going to be discussing one of the main reasons why the United States is the way it is. One of our main ethos and one of the driving forces behind the motivations of these large corporations and large multinational conglomerates that run this society. Of course, I'm talking about a little system called capitalism. And if you don't know what capitalism is, or more importantly, if you don't know how capitalism works, well, you're going to have a much harder time understanding exactly what it is going on in this country. And there are indeed many people who don't understand what capitalism is. And those people, they're in a certain kind of predicament. Because these people who don't understand what capitalism is, they go outside in the United States and they believe that the doctor is giving them what is best for their health. They go to the grocery store and they trust that there can't possibly be anything too wrong with these things. There can't be possibly anything too harmful in this food, right? There has to be some kind of safeguards in place. The people in charge, they can't possibly be that insane, right? They have to have some sort of my best interest at heart. They can't have my worst interest at heart, right? Right? Well, that's why it's important to understand what capitalism is. And I want you to understand and listen to me very carefully when I say this, because capitalism is a system where private entities predominantly control the means of production. And the reason that's such a big problem is because these corporations, these private entities, their main goal is to prioritize profit first above all else. That's what capitalism is all about. And the United States is a capitalist country. It's the main capitalist country, as a matter of fact. And so what that means is that when you go to the doctor in the United States, the doctor's main goal is not to make you healthy. The doctor's main goal is to make the most money. When you go to the grocery store, those items, they're not on the shelf because they're good for you. Those items are on the shelf. They're there because they make that grocery store the most money. So once you understand that, the world we live in, it starts to make a lot more sense. The modern day United States, it makes a lot more sense why it is the way it is. Because you might be fooled by the commercials, you might be fooled by the marketing that tell you otherwise, but the truth is, these corporations, they don't give a damn about your health. They don't give a damn about your well-being. That's not even part of the decision-making process. I will say it again louder for the people in the back. The reason these corporations do what they do is to make the most money possible, to maximize profit. That is all they care about. That is their main goal. And as long as that continues to be the case, you will continue to see exactly what you see every single day in the modern day United States. The culture is dead. Hollywood is dead. Every entertainment industry that used to be great, it's now owned by some large multinational conglomerate private organization, and they don't give a damn about art. They don't give a damn about making a good product. They don't give a damn about delivering something of value. They only care, again, about what will maximize their profit and generate the most shareholder earnings. So what that means for you is that you have to gobble up the same soulless, washed up reboot of the same movie, the same TV show, the same video game that it was maybe good 30 years ago. Nothing is original. Nothing has any charm. Nothing has any soul. And why is that? Because you're living in late stage capitalism. And when it comes to late stage capitalism, that's another discussion that needs to be had, because capitalism, as its proponents argue, might have been an amazing system that lifted millions out of poverty compared to feudalism. It might have been a great system in the late 1800s at the start of the Industrial Revolution and maybe coming out of World War II. But in 2025, more than a century and a half later, I think it's safe to say that it's time to move on to something better. And that's another thing that needs to be mentioned, because we're not dealing with the same capitalist system that created the booming economy of the 1950s. America and the small businesses and the startup entrepreneurs that created it, so many of those same businesses that created this America that we know today, they would have never even existed. They would have never even gotten off the ground, because nearly everything is now owned by the same small, powerful group of corporate interests. And nowadays, in nearly every industry, there exists some sort of monopoly. If you look into the food, it turns out it's owned by the same five corporations. If you look into the media, same thing. And we've already heard the corporations like BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, we already know what they're trying to do. They're attempting to buy the entire housing market, and we already know how horrible that would be for the average American homebuyer. It would make it impossible for people to buy homes. So this is exactly the problem with late stage capitalism, and any small businesses that may possibly offer a better product and compete in the market, they immediately get destroyed or bought off by these large monopolies before it even stands a chance. And that's the other problem, is that this is where this whole conversation gets flipped on its head, kind of, because you can argue that the modern day United States, it doesn't even practice authentic free market capitalism. Because under authentic free market capitalism, if a business is not able to compete naturally in the free market, that business, it's supposed to go out of business because they just weren't good enough to survive. But as we saw during the 2008 financial crisis, when the large banks failed, they weren't forced to go out of business. They got bailed out by the government. So under that context, America doesn't even have a pure free market capitalist system. And that's the argument that many conservatives used to make, that if we didn't have a true free market, or that if we did have a true free market capitalist system, that we would be better off for it. But my argument is that this awful system that we have ended up with as a result of this late stage capitalism, and this main idea that we must put profit above all else, above all other things, that idea has gone so far that we no longer live in a pure capitalist society. The best way to describe the modern day United States is an oligarchy. And that's a system where a small group of very powerful elites run the whole show. And the truth is that these powerful elites, they don't even give a damn about capitalism. They just happen to align with the tenets of capitalism because they want to make the most money and maximize profits. But in reality, they'll bend the rules in whichever way benefits them. And that is going to completely spit in the face every single time of whatever stupid economic system the United States purports to believe in. So these powerful elites, one thing's for sure, they'll propagandize you to believe that any other system besides capitalism is evil. They've trained people to believe that words like socialism and communism are evil, and that anybody who believes in those things is insane. But in reality, if you look into the definition of socialism, socialism is a system where the workers own the means of production. So in a socialist system, instead of the McDonald's worker earning $15 an hour, regardless of how many billions McDonald's makes, in a socialist system, the worker would actually own a share of McDonald's and participate in the profits of his labor. But that's what they don't want you to know. because the powers that be, they don't want the McDonald's worker to know that he gets paid $15 an hour, but he actually produces $100 an hour in profit for McDonald's. So that worker, in reality, that worker is being exploited, and he's not participating in the $1 billion of wealth that McDonald's generates. But they don't want you to be educated about that. They don't want you to know anything about this, because then the McDonald's worker, he'd be asking for a lot more than $15 an hour. So they purposely keep you in the dark. They purposely keep you uneducated, and they purposely keep you dumb. Because if you were to find out that socialism isn't actually the grand evil that they say it is, that wouldn't make it very easy to maximize those shareholder profits, now would it? And the last piece here is this. What they don't want to tell you is that there's already many socialist aspects of the United States government, many core tenets of American society, things like police, firefighters, buses, schools, all of these things, they're funded in a very socialist way. And all of these things, they're very socialist ideas. These are systems that are not privately owned. They're not run for a profit, and they're meant to serve the public good, which is what we should be doing. And many aspects of this country should start doing that, particularly in the healthcare system in this country. Private ownership, it's completely destroyed the quality of care because it creates a profit incentive where there absolutely shouldn't be one. And when it comes to people's health, the main priority is absolutely 100% should always be to prioritize doing whatever it is that'll make people the most healthy, right? But of course, in our twisted system, that's not the case. It's exactly the opposite, because profit is very much an incentive as well. And that's what makes it most of the time so that what's most healthy for you doesn't align at all with what's most profitable for these hospitals, and more importantly, for these private insurance companies, which, by the way, these private insurance companies, they shouldn't even exist. They're just the middleman there to reap profit from your healthcare. But that's a whole discussion for a whole other video. But for now, you can let me know what you think. Do you agree with me that capitalism is evil? Or do you think that I'm crazy, that I'm full of it, and that capitalism is the greatest thing on God's green earth? Let's hash it out in the comment section down below. But that's all I have for now. Don't forget to like, don't forget to share, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you all next time.